Guys, I'm gonna talk to you about how to sell 10K a week. How many people even are interested in selling 10K a week? Woo! But it's done. That's 99% of it right there is making a decision. After that, it's just about being intentional and making sure that everything else that you do supports that decision. So, and if you fall, I'll help you. It might not be me specifically, recordings from JP and other people that are a lot better at this than me, but I'll get them to you. I got you. But just figure out what you're willing to give up. It's funny, I made a post backstage with Mark just before I stepped out on stage, and his brother, who actually introduced me to Mark, commented that he wished I was still in their fantasy football league so he could take all my money now. Because that was one of the things that I had to give up. It's one of those sacrifices that you kind of have to come to terms with if you're gonna sell 10K. Because obviously if you could do it doing what you were doing now, then you would be up here and I would be somewhere else listening to you. So figure that out first and then just follow through. And it starts with, like I said, just being intentional. And everything that we do, and I'm sure you've heard it before, it starts with leads. So how many people drove here today? How many people got out the calculator when they tried to figure out how to get here, to figure out how much gas to put in the car, how many miles per gallon, and just put that amount of gas in their car? Right. So don't try to do that with your leads either. Just buy them. Buy a lot of them. They're 30% off now. Don't use it as an excuse to save money. Use it as a reason to buy more leads because the money goes that much further. So once you get the leads, then it should be smooth sailing from there because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for you to buy the leads and then not call the people, because if you don't call the people, there's no insurance to sell. So if you get the leads, everything else is really just putting one foot in front of the other. And with that intentionality comes with just making sure that you're prepared, because after you get the leads, you got to prepare for dial day. And it doesn't mean just showing up and picking up the phone. You actually have to get ready. So either you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, like a lot of us do, or you're going to stay up at night to get those leads in order. You can use Road Warrior, Google Maps, whatever you need to do. But what I do is I put them in order by section. A lot of what I do is in Polk County. So I live in Tampa, so it's Plant City, Lakeland, Auburndale, Winter Haven, Point Siena, Kissimmee. I put them in that order. So that when I sit down to dial, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just dialing one after the other so that I can just book the appointments and keep it moving. And if it's internet life leads, I do a decent amount of mortgage. If it's internet life leads, just download those leads into the spreadsheet, watch an Excel video on how to sort the spreadsheet, and sort them by zip code or city so that you can do the same thing. Because the last thing you want to do is show up to dial at 8 o'clock, shuffle through the leads, now it's 8:30, now you got to convince yourself to get on the phone again because you wasted that time. Now it's 9 o'clock, and instead of dialing all day, you're literally taking all day to start dialing, and it's self-sabotage. And the most dangerous place to be by yourself is in your own head, so don't do it. Getting on the phone, you should pace yourself. Use a dial tracker. I still use a dial tracker. You should be pacing between 40 and 50 dials an hour. That's talk. Every time you press talk, it's a dial. So use a dial tracker and track your dials, because if you call me and say you don't have enough appointments and you're struggling, the first thing I'm gonna ask is how many dials you made. Because it literally takes a minute to make a dial or a call. So if you tell me you dialed all day, 8 hours, 8 times 6 is 48. So if you dial for 8 hours, you should have about 480 dials. If it's less than that, then I'm trying to figure out what you did with the rest of your day. So don't lie to yourself, because it's you versus you, and you get to choose who wins. So it's one of you. You got a 50-50 chance, so put it in your favor. So definitely track your dials and get some dial scripts. There's a bunch of heavyweights, a bunch of beasts on the phone, from Dom Rogers to Jamie. There's a bunch of people that are great on the phone. Listen to them. Get around people. Go to an office. Don't dial at home by yourself. Don't do what I used to do. Because if you're dialing at home by yourself, it wasn't the same system that you're plugging into either. So definitely plug into the system. Because I think like you guys have like the old Contra cheat code, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, BA, select. That's funny what sticks with you. But you guys all have a cheat code. So definitely go to an office. Because what will happen when you get in the office is you'll get around people that are going through the same things that you are. So when you hear no, it's not as daunting. It's not as defeating. You're not as deflated. What else happens is you get around somebody that's having some success on the phone and it drives you to keep going forward. And you start to pick up tips and tricks. And they're listening to you dial, and I don't know how long you've been here, if you've kind of figured out what's going on here, but they're eager to help. And if they hear you say something wrong, they're gonna correct you. Because we wanna see you win. Because if you win, it makes it easier for me to recruit the next person because now I can come back and point at you. So definitely get to an office, because if you're at home, I swear, when I was at home dialing by myself, the laundry was always done, dishes were always clean. The house was immaculate. And then I started selling insurance. So get to an office, book the appointments, and schedule them out so that you don't have to think about it. So if you schedule them out, when you schedule, you should do every hour on the hour if they're internet life leads. If you're doing mortgage, every hour and a half. But put them in your Google Calendar, because what happens is you get in the car, and just like everything else, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm the smartest person in the world, a lot of what I do is eliminating thought. So I put it in the Google Calendar, so all I have to do is get in the car, pull up the next appointment, touch it, and the map tells me where to go. And then I can put on a podcast and listen to somebody else, so they can tell me how to do this, so that I can tell you how to do what they taught me how to do. It's funny how this all works. So then, once you have your appointment set, obviously you're going to go to the appointments, because just like buying the leads and not dialing them would be stupid, it would be idiotic to book the appointments for these people to know that you're coming, to help them with insurance, to protect their families, and not actually go. So again, the work is done. Just get in the car, put it in drive, and you'll get there. So once you get to the appointments, they're waiting on you to help them. Nobody's confused about what you're doing there. So pretend like you passed the exam, like you have a license. Don't let them bully you, because they have no idea what this is supposed to look like. So don't be nervous either, because whether it's your first time or your 100th time, they have no idea what you're supposed to say. So if you miss something, you're the only one that knows. It's up to you to determine whether or not you let them know, or you can just keep it moving and follow the training if you plugged into the system, and everything will go. That's why you see so many first-time producers selling 10K, first-time producers writing 30K in their first month, because they just plugged into the system and took the guesswork out of it. So get there. And one of the things that I think will help you a lot in the house is understanding that you're the only one with the insurance license, and setting the stage when you get in the house. Let them know who you are. Brian has a great book that he goes through that tells who he is, about his family, his license. I keep all that digital because it's just who I am, and I don't like to carry a whole lot of things with me. But tell them who you are, why you're there. Obviously, it's to help protect their family, and it starts uncovering the why. And then what you're going to do. Set those steps out so that nobody's confused about what's going to happen today, because it's going to eliminate a lot of objections if you tell them up front what you're going to do. Okay, so, and what that sounds like is, obviously we're here to protect the mortgage or protect your loved ones in the event of an untimely death. But in the case of a mortgage, the first thing we're going to do is, obviously we're going to talk about the breakdown of the mortgage. Then we're going to talk about the finances of the household. And then from there, we're going to talk about a brief overview of the medical history, prescriptions, things like that. So just walk them through it so that when you ask those questions, there's no pushback. And it'll make this a lot smoother for you. Nobody's confused. They understand what's going on, and they'll just comply. They'll just go along with it because you have the license. You told them what was going to happen. They booked the appointment because they sent in the request. They let you in the house. So why wouldn't they go along with it? It just all makes sense. Definitely when you're in the house, use a client profile sheet, because the psychology behind it is amazing. It'll keep you on task, it'll keep them on task, and what it does, because humans are inherently nosy, so everything that you write down, they're watching you write it down, they're hearing themselves say it, and they're looking at it the entire time you're sitting there. So everything that you uncover becomes glaring to them. So it becomes more and more apparent, as you go through the in-home, more and more apparent why you're there, why they need the insurance, and what you're there to protect. So it inherently helps you eliminate more objections. So definitely use a client profile sheet. And I have one that I created where it's separate because I want them to understand that they're essentially two separate entities, that it's a partnership. If it's one person, it's one person, but if they're separate, I need them to see themselves separately. So there's no confusion that one of you is going to leave and the other person's going to be here by themselves. So this is your half, this is my half. We're together, or they're together, but for all intents and purposes, we need to figure out what happens when he's not here and what happens when she's not here. So if it's one thing for you to talk them through it, people forget in a second, but it's another thing for them to see it over and over again. And then just walk them through it, ask the questions, spend a lot of time on the why, uncovering the why. And that for me really starts in the beginning, when I'm walking in the house. A lot of people talk about not building rapport. I don't build rapport. A lot of what I do is intentional. The pictures on the wall, I want to know who they are, where they live, where they're going to have to come from when you die, because all that's built into the premium. All that builds value in the actual policy. And I just want to know who we're protecting, because it gets them talking about their kids, their grandkids. It brings up all those, like Ray Lewis said, it brings up the life. It brings up the life part. And then I'm going to insert the insurance part to protect the life part. So you need to get those things. And then, I mean, from there, it's really just going through it and just being a person, just care. Because if you care, they'll know that you cared, instead of being like the last person that came in the house that just tried to sell them something that they didn't buy from, because the training is a little bit different here. So if you show them that, then you'll inherently get to 10K if you buy the leads, book enough appointments, and go run the appointments. How many appointments? I think JP may have talked about it, but your schedule is your schedule. You should dial Monday like everybody else, unless your situation is completely different and your manager will walk you through it. Dial Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Dial Thursday for Friday, Saturday. And like I did when I was trying to figure this thing out, because I promise you, I was worse than everybody in here when I started. I left Saturday morning open. It's not reserved for travel trips, like Zach said on the video yesterday. I left Saturday morning open to dial for Sunday to give me that extra day of appointments. So if you need to, you can legit get 35 appointments in a week without overexerting yourself. And what that is those are reps. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in here, except for Dean, a lot of people in here have a workout regimen. So obviously the more reps you do, the stronger you get. So the more appointments you run, the easier, the better this is gonna get, and the more seamless this is. So definitely do that. So your schedule is paramount, protect the dial time. And then after the appointment is kind of where the magic happens. I know all this stuff is important, but after the appointment, good, bad, or indifferent, starting out, you should be calling your manager. So it's ironic that I'm up here talking about this, because I remember I used to call, and I apologize, Robin, because it happened a lot of times on Friday nights at dinner, and I know now it's date night, so I flinch every time I reach for the phone. But I used to call Mark after every appointment, and I'm sure at some point he dreaded those phone calls. I wish I had a camera in his car, because I know those conversations were the same over and over and over again. But we used to have conversations about just getting to $5,000 a week. Bro, if I can just get you to submit $5,000 a week, your life will be completely different. And you have to make those phone calls to your run buddy, to your manager, to definitely reach up. Don't talk to somebody else that's going through the same thing you are, because it's going to end up being a psychology session, and nobody is qualified for that. But definitely make those phone calls so that you can figure out what you did and start building those, start grabbing those bricks so that you can build that foundation, so that you can start eliminating those things, so that over time what happens is those things become second nature, and those calls start to build on each other, and those calls get less and less frequent, and then you're talking to yourself in the car because I can hear everything Mark's going to say now without calling him. So sometimes I just call, honestly, because I miss him. He's a good dude. The other thing that happens when you get in the car after those appointments, after you hang up with Mark or whoever your manager is those podcasts. The ones that I send you when you call me, because I'm not going to talk to you. Because I have recordings of people that are way better at this than me. Zach Tradowski, Hall of Fame producer. Brian Mendenhall's Call to Close. I'm going to send you a recording. It's going to be a YouTube link or a recording that I have from the archives before everything was actually recorded and you could just pull it up. So it'll be a link. But you need to listen to those over and over again, just like your favorite song. The first time you hear it, you're like, oh, I kind of like that. Second time you hear it, like my cousin Charles this morning on the way here, like every 15th word, he gets louder, he mumbles the first word, the second word is clear, and then everything else is, he went back to sleep. By the 5th or 6th time, like you might know a couple verses or the chorus at least, and then you just pick up different nuggets every time you listen to it. So you have to listen to those things over and over again. So don't say I heard it, or yeah, I listened to that. I need you to digest it. I need you to understand it. I need you to sound like the person on that recording so that you can turn it into you and create your own recording for yourself. So definitely listen to those things in the car, because that's essentially where the rubber meets the road, and where this thing really starts to change is when you start to internalize those things. So, I mean, then from there, it's really just the mindset and just going through the motions. Now, like I said, Mark and I used to talk a lot about 5K a week. Now, it's 5K a day. If I leave the house and I don't come back with 5K, I'm trying to figure out what happened. And sometimes it's a call to somebody else because I'm still afraid to be in my own head by myself. But I didn't get there without spending the time on the leads, spending the time in the home, spending the time talking to the people, and then spending the time listening to the recordings as well. Some other things that'll help you is underwriting. There's, again, some cheat sheets. There's the term grid and the final expense grid. If you have nothing else, you need those in the house. You absolutely need those in the house, because they're going to, that uncomfortable feeling that you get when we tell you to call us from every house, that's going to make those calls that much more seamless and that much more beneficial to you, because you're going to start to build up your own database. But that's going to bridge the gap, because it has those ailments that the people are going to give you. So when they give you those prescriptions, Google those prescriptions so that you start to develop that Rolodex of scripts so that you can start to make some of these decisions yourself. Refer to the sheet, because you should have it. And the sheet will really guide you to where you need to go, and that'll make it that much simpler for you to, because underwriting is where the money is, aside from the phone, that's where the money is really made. So if you have those, then it's like Paul McLean says, it's like walking down the alley with a bunch of Navy SEALs with you. You really have nothing to fear between that and your upline and the army of people that are here supporting you. I'll also use iBooks or Apple Books or whatever it is. If you use a Droid, I can't help you. But what Books allows me to do is it allows me to carry all of those underwriting guides, all of those cheat sheets, all of those things with me on my phone. So literally anything that happens, regardless of what product it is, what the prescription is, I can pull that up in my phone, and it's a digital document. And because it's digital and it's in books, it becomes a searchable document. So if I want to know how they feel about diabetes, I just pull it up and type in diabetes, and it shows me everywhere that diabetes appears. And then they think I'm a genius. And then they say things like, what'd you do, go to medical school? But again, I'm not that smart. So a lot of what it takes to write 10K, you've already done. You've come here. Just take the things that are provided for you today, make sure that you implement them, make sure that you reach up often, and if there's anything that I can do to help with that 10K, just give me a call and I'll make sure that you have an extensive library of links and resources that you can refer to, so that the next time you call, we can talk about building your agency instead of how to write insurance. All right, folks, have a good one.